So do
Hey,
you know, Andrew, do you know what it is that is fundamental and the source of all facts? Do you know what that is?
hey,
Well,
Andrew, let me
You
ask
don't?
you
So
a
how did you
question.
determine that it's not God? I think just a lot of these people are so, just inconsistent, I think, more than anything. And so like Andrew here, I've tried to have a conversation with Andrew a few times, and actually wasn't going to come in tonight, but I asked Andrew a question a while back, and I'm still waiting for an answer. And so maybe now that we're both here, you can answer. But my question for Andrew was, does natural selection select upon what is true and false?
Right, good question. I've been asking that question for years. And the truth is, natural selection has nothing to do with what's true and false. It has only to do with what's beneficial and non-beneficial. It has nothing to do with what's true or what's not true. Truth and falsity are concepts that are produced by non-physical minds. They're not produced by the chemistry. So,
Yeah, exactly.
chemistry produces only things that are or are not, but not what's true or not true. You can't say that it's true. Now, if you say that it's true that a potassium molecule encountering another molecule will produce another, that's not the same kind of truth. That's a false statement. So it'd be a fake argument. What we're talking about when we say truth, we're talking about something that's transcendental, not something that's material. So you can't explain the transcendental with the material.
What do you think about that, Andrew?
I guess I would agree. I don't think science deals with things beyond the natural world.
So let try to reason with you for a minute. So if natural selection does not select for what is true and what is false, then in a world where there is no God, how would you determine what it is that is true and what it is that is false? How would you determine that?
That which comports with reality.
Do you know all reality?
No, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, then how can you determine what is true and false unless you know all reality? You'd have to be all-knowing, right?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, well, you would necessarily.
Well,
So how would you?
To me, there
How
are
would
different
you?
kinds of truth. Like what I'm trying to find is a kind of emergent truth where
So it's
upon
arbitrary truth. So you would say
I
your
didn't
truth
say that.
is arbitrary. Well, if you say that there's different kinds of truth, that means that there would be your truth, and there would be my truth. And in a world
No, I
where you
didn't say
don't,
that either. I
well, then
said
how would
emergent
you
truth.
determine what is true?
Again, that which conforms to what we see in reality.
How do you assess reality?
Through science. That's my whole
But
worldview
specifically
revolves
through your senses, right?
around. Not well. Like you can't see radio waves, for example.
I didn't ask if you can see, but obviously you do science, right? And then you use,
Yes,
I would say that you would use a philosophy, but you would have to at some point rely upon your senses.
yes, at some
And
point.
yeah, okay, so that's fine. So a magician and a deceiver would also rely on your senses not being valid in order that they can deceive you. So, for example, in a world where, let's say that a mutation got passed through a people, all humans, and this mutation made everyone colorblind, and they could no longer tell what is blue, right?
Right.
So, in their mind, they would see what would be purple. I'm not sure what someone that's colorblind would see, and they would assume that it's blue. But they would not know that, in fact, it was not blue because they would all be colorblind. So how would you determine fundamentally or scientifically something that which you cannot determine because you have no access to what is true and what is false?
Okay, well, that's where you have to compare your results with other people.
Okay, so because your
But
senses fail,
science isn't
you
an
would.
isolated enterprise.
Yeah,
No
so
one says that.
because your senses fail, you would appeal to other people whose senses also fail.
I didn't say that we would necessarily
See, that's what
forget
I'm talking about.
what I would see.
That's what I'm talking about. When Sam uses irrefutable, solid logic and just common sense to argue against people, the last question that he just asked is a beautiful example of that.
Okay, well, how about this, Sam?
Well,
How did you
hold on,
determine that you're
hold on,
color-
Andrew. I'm not. No. You're not going to dodge. I'm going to hold you to this, and you can answer because so what you would get a consensus idea of truth, but a consensus idea of truth when a population is colorblind, they would never be able to access the color blue. They would come to the conclusion based on a consensus that a color is blue, but fundamentally it would not be blue. So how would you resolve this? Do you have access to fundamental truth and falsity from your worldview?
Wait, you're saying the entire population of scientists in this case are colorblind?
No, I don't.
That's not what I said. You're dodging.
Appealing
I
to
said
the majority is in the scientific community.
I'm
is
trying
not
to
an
clarify
argument.
what you were saying. What proportion of the population? Because
how would you determine, Andrew? How would you determine in a world where you do not have access to what is fundamentally true and what is false, so far that you've appealed to the majority? But if that majority has the same problem and that they're all colorblind, then you are going to have an agreed upon consensus of something that is not true. So your appeal to consensus has failed you. Would you like to try something else?
Okay, well, the deeper issue here is that even though the consensus position at one point may be false or incomplete in some way, the consensus position at any later moment is going to encompass that older consensus position.
Okay, so now your truth is arbitrary again. Now your truth is arbitrary.
I think what Sam has pointed out is that all appeals to authority of a scientific community or whatever are worthless. They're completely worthless because they don't address the question, and they're just appeals to somebody else's argument. And
if someone came along to you,
secondly, Sam has pointed out that if they're all deluded, then you're arguing for an opinion of a bunch of people who are deluded, and you're not.
How did you determine that they were deluded?
The point is you're not providing an argument from data or observable or empirical facts. You're only pointing to somebody else's sayings and saying that's the truth because they say.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, that's what appeals to authority are. Appeals. Now,
there's a difference between an appeal to authority and an appeal to expertise.
Hold on. Now, creationists do the same sort of thing, but there's a difference. There is a difference.
Oh yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah, well, if you'll listen, you'll understand. There is a difference. I use quotations by evolutionist scientists all the time in my debates. In fact, I prefer to provide evolutionist sources that refute evolutionists in myself. But the difference is this. The difference is that while I might be doing that, the point is that some of it's the data, the observations that they explain in their statements versus the paradigm. That's the problem. The numbers don't matter. What the data says. So if you have a scientist describe data in such a way, then he's providing an argument about the data. But if you have a statement where a scientist says, we believe in evolution, it's worthless.
Well, but yeah, so it's even worse. It's even worse than that, though, because I'm attacking at a fundamental level. So I'm asking you, Andrew, how do you determine what is true or false when there is a disagreement? And so far, you've only appealed to the consensus. But if the consensus is wrong about something, like let's say, for instance, the heliocentric model versus the geocentric model. At one time, you would say that the geocentric model was a fact. based on your scientific consensus.
And
They were.
here's
But
the
they,
key
so
thing.
was so hold on. Was that a Andrew? Don't interrupt me. Was it a fact that they were right, or was it a fact that they were wrong and thought they were right? Which is it?
Well, skip all this. Just get to the evidence that we're wrong.
It was the geocentric model, however incomplete as it may be, was the first cornerstone that led to the heliocentric
That's
model.
not my argument. That you're totally dodging right now. That has nothing to do with my point. You've totally failed to penetrate what I'm trying to assert.
Right.
No, we're still trying to figure out how you determine what is right or wrong, and you're dodging. So like I said, at a time when something they believed from the consensus as a fact was wrong, how can you fundamentally determine today that you have not fallen into that same trap? How can you verify that for me?
That's a good question. That's excellent.
Are you basically asking science has been wrong before, so how do I know it's not wrong right now?
That's not what I've said. That's not what I'm asking.
That's what you're arguing.
No.
That's not what I'm asking.
No, wait a second. What he's asking is this: if you're going to appeal to authority, and you're going to claim that the appeal to authority is correct, how is it that you can know whether or not the appeal to authority is correct if you're not outside the box?
I'm not saying it's correct.
He's asking you, how is it you can declare yourself to be not brainwashed?
So Andrew, you just said that you might not be correct. So now you've entered another dilemma because now you've said that what you know as a fact is not arbitrary, but you've also said that what you're pushing as a fact today might not be correct. That means that what is a fact from your worldview is in fact arbitrary. It is a fact that can change. Therefore, it's not a fact at all. So now you've backed yourself into another corner. Which corner would you like?
With likelihoods, not absolute truths.
If it's not absolute truth, then it's a brute fact. It's a moot fact. That means it's not a fact at all.
Okay,
it's a
hold
conclusion.
up a second, guys. Oh, shoot. Bruce wanted to say something.
Sorry, Bruce.
He left. Bruce, come on back in if you want to.
So,
I was going to hold the room quiet for a second if I could, so you'd say something. he mouthed something. I don't know what it is. Blah blah blah, and then he left. And I was trying to capture the room for him, but oh well.
Yeah. So Andrew, if it's a fact, if your fact, what you're suggesting is a fact, if it is in fact a fact, then it's not going to change. If it will change or it might change, like you're saying, then what you have is an appeal to a consensus. You have a conclusion, but it's not a fact. And I see you on these streams arguing for your position as if it is a fact. But I'm wondering how.
Jump out the window because gravity isn't 100% proven.
You're missing my point entirely. I wish you would actually engage with what I am saying. I've asked you how you can determine fundamentally. Okay, so if you don't have an answer for that, that's fine. I have another question for you. Okay, you love science, so tell me, Andrew, physical brains, are they subject to the laws of physics?
Sure.
Okay. Are mental states subject to the laws of logic?
I guess so.
So is logic a concept? Or does logic necessarily exist?
I don't understand the question, to be honest.
Is logic a concept, or does logic necessarily exist? Is it transcendent?
You're going too fast for him, Sam. He's not ready for this.
It's not my field of expertise, so it would
be dishonest. You're dodging. You're smart enough to answer.
He's not prepared to answer, Sam. He doesn't know enough to answer. You're asking. You're 2 pay grades ahead of him, man.
Okay, so Andrew, would you say that all facts are derivational of God, including logic?
The question correctly, no.
No? Okay. So logic, right, is either transcendent or it is a concept. If logic is transcendent, then logic necessarily exists outside of a mind. At least outside of matter from your worldview. So what's it going to be? What is logic?
Logic. I would say logic is the way in which we solve problems.
That's no. You're missing it again. You're missing it again. Is logic a concept, or does logic necessarily exist?
Again, I don't understand the question.
Is logic a concept, or does logic necessarily exist?
You're arguing against somebody.
You're asking if it's physical or not.
Sam, he's way below your pay grade, man. way
We're all below each other's pay grade in some levels,
Okay.
but not others.
It's not going to happen, Sam. He's not. I honestly, listening, I don't think he's able. I really don't think so.
So, Andrew, it's my position that logic stems from the mind of God.
Sure.
If you are to be consistent with your position, then you would suggest that logic is a concept. But you will not be able to defend that, because if you would suggest that logic is a concept, I would ask you to avoid a circular argument by suspending logic and arguing for logic as a concept. But if you do that, then you cannot have a logical argument. And if you begin to make a logical argument, then you're going to prove that, in fact, logic is transcendent.
Yeah,
and so you're going to be in another corner.
Laws of logic are circular.
If logic is a concept, then you should be able to temporarily dismiss logic to argue that it is a concept.
I don't see how that's possible.
Correct. It's not possible because logic stems from the mind of God. It is transcendent. It is not a concept. Is it made of matter?
It's easy. Genesis 1.
Is it made of matter, Andrew?
God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay. So if logic is not made of matter, then it is not bound by the laws of physics, is it?
Well, quantum fields are not made of matter, but they are bound by the laws of physics.
Does quantum fields exist inside of our time, space, and matter? Do you test empirically quantum physics?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait. Are you saying are you denying quantum?
Answer the question.
No, do we have
answer the question, Andrew?
Do we have empirical evidence for quantum physics states?
Sure, we've made predictions.
Okay, so then it's made of matter, so it's something that you can test.
That's not true.
What? That doesn't follow.
So would you say that
energy, but not everything is made of matter.
Okay, so
some things are like space-time. Is space-time made of matter? Of course not.
Excellent. You're pointing to the supernatural. Thank you so much.
Are you saying space-time is supernatural?
Well, how is it made of matter? Is logic made of matter? Would you say that logic exists in a quantum field? Is that what you're appealing to for that which is fundamental and the source of all facts? Is it a quantum field?
What I'm saying is that certain things can be not made of matter.
I'm not asking you about certain things.
We can still understand them.
I'm not asking you about certain things. You're just making throwaway statements. You're not addressing anything.
Okay, then let's
move on. Okay, so those who think mental states are entirely physical hold a logical contradictory position.
That's right.
So, in order to think rationally about your own thoughts, they must have freedom. Would you agree? Would you agree, Andrew? Do you need freedom? Do you need to freely think in order to do science?
Yes.
Okay, so freedom is unavailable if the laws of physics and the laws of chemistry are controlling your thoughts. So what do you do?
I would disagree with that.
How so?
No, here's something to consider. So if the secular camp's ideas about the origin of the universe and all things thereafter were true, then everything would be determined by physical determinacy, period. It's a cosmic pool break. Whatever molecules or atoms encounter other atoms is a result of the initial state of the pool break. And that means that everything is deterministic. And this is what I've had countless evolutionists, atheists argue for, And that's because it's consistent with their worldview. If
I
their
don't
worldview were
necessarily
true,
argue for that.
but you'd be wrong if you're an atheist. If you're an atheist, you're stuck with that, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
Okay, then I guess I'm not an atheist.
Okay, great. So we can go there, but let me just touch upon this for a second more, so that people listening might understand. If atheism is true, physical chemical determinism is true. It's because of the cosmic pool break, this Big Bang, which was allegedly either uncaused or self-caused. Both are completely refutable. Has resulted in a spreading and bouncing of matter into other matter over time and distance, to ultimately cause matter to do everything that it did. This is what the secular camp argues for, but you can't get them to discuss it because they know how stupid it sounds. Isn't that great? You believe something so firmly at the basis of everything you believe, and nobody's questioning it, and you can't get these morons to discuss it with you.
Sure, let's talk about the evidence for the Big Bang Theory. How about we do that?
Yeah, so
because it's too stupid. Wait, guys. So it's too stupid to talk about. So here's the problem. If determinacy were true, then every thought that you think, every idea you have, or belief you have, or motivation, or it doesn't matter what it may be, is not. It means it's absolutely meaningless. It has no meaning. It doesn't do anything. It has zero value because it's just what the cosmic pool ball break caused to be. So when an atheist says, "I think that Steve Winwood is a great artist," it's meaningless. It doesn't mean a thing because it's the cosmic pool break that caused the chemistry in their brain to produce the sound waves that say Steve Winwood is a great artist. See what I'm saying? It means nothing. So on atheism, because atheism does require, and I've had countless atheists claim, no, I don't require that physical determinism is true. That's a lie. That's stupid. They're running from their own worldview. The truth is, anytime an atheist says there's value to a thing, or anything is meaningful or true, or any you could pick any one of the thousands and thousands of words in the English dictionary, right? And anytime they use any one of them, every single one of them, they've failed because they're appealing to a concept that can't exist if physical materialism and determinism were true. None of the words in the English dictionary could exist, or any dictionary. It's impossible because they have meaning that's separate from the physical matter that they're talking about. Every word, all words in all languages, every single word in every language in this earth is proof that atheism is false, because we are not chemical brains. We have a mind, and the mind produces that which is supernatural, and the supernatural is able to consider and apply meaning to and determine meaning from sets of symbols and produce non-physical characteristics and non-deterministic pathways of behavior and thoughts and beliefs. You can't get that out of physical determinism. So, you see, if you're an atheist, you're dead in the water. Philosophically and scientifically, you're in denial of the truth.
Okay, look, here's the thing. I never said that I think the supernatural can't necessarily exist. I
didn't say you did.
Yes, you did.
I did?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
In what way?
Yeah, so you made an indirect, which is a direct rejection of God, when you said that facts can exist outside of God. If all facts are not derivational from God, then you have denied God, because God cannot logically exist in a world or a creation where all facts are not derivational from Him, right? So do
Hey,
you know, Andrew, do you know what it is that is fundamental and the source of all facts? Do you know what that is?
Hey, Andrew, let me
You
ask
don't?
you
So
a
how did you
question.
determine that it's not God?
I
Andrew, I want to ask
didn't
you a
say
question.
that.
I just explained to you how you did say that.
Andrew, I want to ask you a question. If somebody said to you, you're a sinner, and you require a savior, and that God has done this wonderful thing for you because He loves you, why would you be opposed to that message? Is there a reason? Is there any reason why you should be opposed to the message that God has done a wonderful thing to make it possible for you to be forgiven for everything you've ever done wrong? In fact, not just that which you've done wrong, but everything that you ever will do that's wrong. Because Christ sees all the future. He doesn't say to Himself, "Oh, gee, I didn't see that sin coming. I got to go back to the drawing board." No.
Yeah, you nailed it, Neff. I mean, that's 100% right on the money. And that, Andrew, like you are not you're not a special case beyond forgiveness, and Christ does love you very much. And you just denied Him, whether you want to admit it or not. There's people in jail that have not admitted to a crime that they've been convicted of because they've implemented themselves, and that's what you've done. And so all I wanted to do tonight is show that, you don't even know what is true and what is false fundamentally from your worldview. It has no explanation. Natural selection doesn't select for what is true and false, so you can't go there.
That's right.
Your senses aren't going to work because, again, magicians and deceivers rely on those senses for them to do their job. And so appealing to more people that have the same dilemma fails. Your mind is more than just chemistry and physics. Unless you're going to deny the laws of physics and chemistry, you're going to have to explain what a thought is. So if you can't fundamentally to tell what is true and false, then you can't say that God doesn't exist. But from my worldview, I can say those things, and I can say God loves you, and I can say that you're not a special case beyond forgiveness. And so far, you haven't given me a rational or empirical explanation for knowledge.
Okay, then let's start from the beginning of where my position comes from. Okay,
well,
so I start
before we do that. Are you going to deny the laws of physics and chemistry?
No,
because that's where we left off. That was the question. If your mind or your brain, if your mind is a result of your brain, and you're from your naturalistic worldview, you are limited to the laws of physics and chemistry, then you need to determine how you can or explain a chemical recipe for free will or something of that matter. Because you can't have free thoughts. You can't do if your worldview is true, you cannot explain free will. But you do have free will because your worldview is false.
My worldview is that of science, and science does not explain free will.
Have you scientifically verified that God does not exist?
No, I don't try to.
Okay. Have you scientifically verified that your atheism is proper? How would you falsify your
Atheism
worldview?
isn't a position.
Well, you're here arguing for it. How would you falsify your worldview?
I'm not arguing for it.
How would you scientifically falsify your not God worldview? How would you do that?
So how would I disprove a non-claim?
How would you scientifically falsify your not God worldview? No, I have already explained to you multiple times how you've made a direct claim that God does not exist. God is defined as what is ultimate and fundamental and the source of all facts. So if you're going to say that God is not the source of all facts, then you have directly denied God. And so I am asking you for a rational, Mr. Rational Empiricist, I'm asking you for a rational or a coherent or a scientific explanation of how you came to that conclusion. based on your scientific
maybe I misunderstood
methodology.
Why do you say God is the foundation of all facts?
Because I can say that.
That's
because it makes sense from my worldview. Sure, yeah. So do you believe that we're in an open system?
What are the starting axioms of your worldview?
That God created us. God created Adam through divine intervention. He's given us his word. He's given us prophets. He's given us prophecies. He sent Jesus so that he could be aligned and realigned.
How did you
that we can be realigned and aligned with truth? So that is a objective truth. Now, if you want to reject
you're
that,
just making claims. You're not answering
if you want to reject, how did you determine it's just a claim? How did you determine it's just a claim?
Because you made a claim.
Well, you're making a claim. You're making a claim that it's just a claim. So how can you verify that?
Let me interrupt for a minute, guys.
I know it's just a claim because you didn't give any
how do you know
reason
anything?
how you came to that claim.
You haven't determined how you can know anything.
Right. If you would let me talk about this, I start from certain axioms that
how did you empirically verify your axiom?
I want
There
to
are
cut in
starting
here, guys.
axioms that I cannot verify.
I want to cut in for a second, guys. You guys will go back and forth for the next 20 years and it won't go anywhere because the atheist is not going to believe in God and the Christian is not going to convince him. But I'm gonna share something with you.
I came in here to talk some actual science, and I don't tend to think much about philosophy.
Well,
science is philosophy.
When I say I don't.
No, science is not philosophy. Science is not philosophy.
Oh, really?
Science was born to form philosophy.
So how do you measure the evidence if science isn't philosophy?
Science came
What is
from
the philosophy of science? You just look at stuff and immediately know what it is.
Hold on, guys. Redefine is correct. You have to have philosophy first, and then science can be used. If you don't have philosophy first, then there'll be no science. You have to understand what it is you're thinking of and why you believe it before you can even study it.
Yeah.
And this is why even the scientific method is imperfect, because as Sam points out, you have to believe a thing before you can even begin to study it. Is that not right, Sam?
Yes, that's right. And you can believe a thing either rationally or irrationally. But if your starting point does not offer a coherent explanation of reality, then your starting point is wrong.